You're going to love it, guys. First thing first, because it's a game of chess played in between two super grandmasters. Secondly, we've got a Grunfeld Defense. It's the first time I'm doing Grunfeld Defense with you, my friends. And it won't be very long, but very instructive. So I'll try to do it under 10 minutes, so I'm not boring anyone to death. I don't want you guys to die of boredom. But nevertheless, this is chess, so you guys are warned. You know what you're getting into. Hopefully, you're going to like it. I loved it very much. Beautiful game here. So let's just get straight into business now. D4 played by Magnus Carlsen. He's playing with white against Nepomniachtchi with the black pieces. Game happened in 2020 in the Skilling Open. I hope I pronounced it correctly. D4, knight f6, and c4. Okay, fine. Now, I was hoping for Nepomniachtchi to play a Budapest Gambit maybe, but it's not going to be. Probably Richard Report plays the Budapest. But g6, that's the King's Indian, just very nice. Up to this point, knight to c3. And we do have a King's Indian here. Just that if you introduce now the d5 move, that is Grunfeld. No more King's Indian. Grunfeld. d5, and you're right into the Grunfeld. Right, so now we take, of course, a few theoretical moves here by the book. Of course, you can push e4 now if you want. There's not a problem. But Magnus went for bishop d2. The idea, simple. If black captures, you're going to take back with the bishop and you retain yourself a beautiful diagonal opposing the other bishop on g7, which will be fianchetto because every single time you're seeing this structure, there is always a bishop coming onto g7. So bishop d2. Again, e4 would have been very much playable, but nevertheless, he played it right now. It's not a problem. Knight takes, and bishop takes on c3. Black castles the king. Never neglect the king's safety, my chess friends. And queen to d2 being played here. Of course, white is preparing to do castle long because you need a couple of tempi. If you're on a castle on the king side, you will need to get those guys first and then castle the king. So don't be very shy. If this were to happen, you can play like Magnus, queen d2, and getting ready to castle. That doesn't mean that you can't play something like rook c1 or knight f3. I'm not saying that. Of course, you could play this kind of ideas. Not a problem. But queen d2 means that you want to castle the king and eventually getting the rook very nicely onto the d file as well. Knight c6, hitting the d4 pawn here 3 times. We got a knight, we got a bishop, and we got a queen. And there is only 2 defenders for that particular d4. So very positional, very clear way to attack your opponent. And now you need to come up with a way to keep that guy alive. You can't afford to lose a pawn because you're going to lose the game. Now you got a few ways to keep that guy alive. Of course, if you want to push the pawn forwards, not a problem. That's perfectly fine. Also very good. And Magnus opted for knight f3, defending for the 3rd time the d4 attacked pawn. Bishop g4. And if you wonder what is that, well, you develop a piece and you're attacking one of the defenders of the d4 white pawn. So now if this guy is being removed, there is less of a defender for the d4. So white again needs to contrive something about keeping that guy alive or pushing it forward, and you've got no issue whatsoever. Pushing the pawn, threatening to taking the knight now. So a few trades now will just simply take place. And bishop takes on f3. You could take the bishop. There's nothing wrong with taking the bishop here. g2 takes f3, but Magnus removes the king's defender, removes the bishop on g7, and king takes, and pawn captures on f3. So he opted to play this. Very theoretical. They had this position before. It is known. And of course, knight on e5 here. You've got to be careful about the f3, which will be a devastating fork, and the queen is goodbye. So you got to keep this thing in mind. Of course, not a problem for you to consider moves like bishop e2, bishop g2 are perfectly playable. Also, it is worth mentioning that you may play something funky like queen to d4 because that will pin the knight to the king, therefore they can't take on f3, but I just don't like it very much because queen to d4 means that black might be playing f6, and then you have to worry about this guy. Of course you can castle, but I just simply don't like it. So very well and very nicely castle long now, and it's perfectly fine. That's not very much playable here because if knight takes on f3, we might have a queen to c3 checking the king and attacking the knight. And even if the knight goes back here, then we're going to play f4, and this guy is gone. So c6 being played, you may want to just simply dismantle this pawns here and open, very importantly for black here, is to open the c file for the rook to check the king. So when white castles long, they actually admit the fact that they might be subjecting their king to some checks on the c file. So c6, and now Magnus plays something very cool. Of course he could have played queen to c3, but he goes with bishop h3. What does that mean? In particular, incredibly important, it's a preventive move here. You want to make sure there is no rook coming on the c file to check your king. Very important, this idea with bishop on h3. Very good. King moves away from the potential queen c3 pinning and headaches like this. So king goes on g8. Queen c3 regardless being played. Notice how the rook can't move on c8. And now, guys, this is move number 15. And you may wonder, well, why can't the black just play something like queen to c7? You know, you just maintain this guy here. You know, you don't want to weaken the light squares, so you may want to just play simply queen to c7. Well, you would say so. Or queen to d6, but not that great because queen still maintains itself on the d file. So you may want to rather play queen to c7, which is absolutely perfectly fine here. But Nepomniachtchi played the blunder. He played the blunder right now, move number 15. If you believe it, if you don't believe it, it don't matter because that's exactly what happened. He played a blunder. Boom, disaster. Queen to b8. And if you wonder now, where's the blunder? I don't understand. What are you talking about? I mean, the knight is defended, right? Well, not for long. Because now, my friends, the black knight is completely trapped. It can't be saved, and Magnus found the way to get that guy off the board. You can pause the video and find yourselves the move that actually dooms the black knight, because you probably noticed, guys, the black knight here on e5 can't go c4, can't go d3, can't play f3, can't play g4, can't go here because it's on pawn, and the bishop, and can't move here because it's already its own guy there. So the knight is absolutely paralyzed. It can't move, and you're going to trap it if you play d6. Why is the knight dead? Is very, very, very much dead here, because the black queen can't take on d6. There is a rook, and the only way for you to save this guy, well, not to save, to just prolong the agony, is to play pawn captures e7 takes on d6, hoping, right, that you're going to defend it from the queen. But alas, f4, and the black knight is gone now. So it'll be captured. Unfortunately for Nepomniachtchi, as you can see, even a super grandmaster can make a blunder. So now, you know, knight is completely compromised. And Magnus being Magnus, he didn't just rushing and to take it here. He firstly wanted to get the rook from the h to the e file. Another important concept, get your rooks on the open or semi-open files. The only counter game would be for black to just try to desperately push the a pawn, maybe pushing down the board, push. Maybe you can create a little bit of a counter games there. And now Magnus plays simply king to b1. And if you wonder why king b1 now? What's the problem here? The problem would be also prophylactically. He anticipated very well that after he takes on e5 and rook takes, you may want to move the king away from the c file where the rook will just simply hitting you. So you want to move the king away from the c file, anticipating there will be a rook coming over to the c5 square. f4 hitting the black rook. Rook attacks the queen, queen f6, maintaining itself closer to the target, namely the black king on g8. a3 here, trying to, you know, luring you into taking, which, by the way, would be a terrible move here. You absolutely do not want to take. You absolutely do not want to subject your king to all sorts of checks and giving them the power to hitting you back here on the A and B file. No. So B3, it's absolutely required here. Yeah, you might have played E5, but it just gives me a feeling of... I understand you can play e5 here, potentially just pushing the pawn one more time, but that's just something I'm not comfortable with. A takes b3, so b3 just making sure the a file and b file are not usable by the black rooks. Like, you know, a normal way to be attacking for black rook now, going for the bishop, potentially for the h2, hoping, dreaming to be attacking perhaps in this fashion. But A brilliant move, a brilliancy play by Magnus Carlsen. Now rook takes on d6, and you may wonder, what? Wait a minute, what's going on? What if I just take the guy's bishop here? Yeah, you may take, but then it's the rook to d. And now you actually got a big problem, because even if you say, let's play queen to e7, I'm giving an example, then we got rook d8, rook d8, rook d8, and my friends, that would be a checkmate. So Magnus Carlsen didn't even bother. I would, I'm that kind of person that probably I would be panicking and just going quickly, oh, bishop g4, let me save my guy. But no, Magnus being Magnus goes with the rook d6 here. You can't really take that guy. And let me go with the move that Nepomniachtchi played, and that is queen to e8. He played here. Again, I would have just panicked myself. I would have played bishop g4, bishop g2, probably, especially if there was a blitz or rapid game. If it was classical, I don't know. But Magnus, again, goes with a very unexpected move, but another brilliancy played by Magnus Carlsen, bishop to e6. And, now if you say, so what's the deal with this? Well, the deal is that after they capture, Magnus played rook e to d1, and Nepomniachtchi simply resigned at this stage. And I hope, guys, it's visible to you. There is no recommendation really here. If you're going for this guy here, again, rook plays onto d8, and if rook takes, and the queen is gone. And if they play something like queen f8, now again, you just go very nicely onto d8. Queen can't take your queen because check from the rook, so rook must take here. You just play rook back there, and that's it. Queen takes, and you got queen versus rook. Obviously, white is categorically winning, and at this level, this caliber that they're playing at, there's no point to continue beyond this move. So after rook e to d1, Nepomniachtchi resigned at this stage. A beautiful Grunfeld Defense game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Just wanted to show you how fallible the human mind can be. So as humans, we always prone to making blunders. Okay, so not the end of the world. It happens even to the best. The race would be for the humans to try to diminish the amount of blunders we're playing in our games. So guys, I hope that was instructive. I hope you liked this game here. Subscribe to this channel. Follow me on my live streams. I think I'm going to do a live stream right after I'm uploading this video on YouTube. And I'll see you guys soon. Thank you very much for being with me.